In the quiet heart of early 20th century America, in the city of St. Louis, Missouri, an ordinary woman named Pearl Curran found herself at the center of one of the most perplexing literary mysteries of the century. With no formal literary training, no academic accolades, and no known interest in the supernatural, Pearl became the voice of a ghost, a spirit who claimed to have lived and died centuries before. This is the story of Patience Worth. The year was 1913. Spiritualism was sweeping across America. In drawing rooms and parlors, people gathered around Ouija boards and held seances, searching for answers from the other side. Pearl Curran, a reserved housewife, attended one such seance reluctantly. But what began as casual curiosity soon unraveled into a lifetime of extraordinary encounters. Through the Ouija board, a presence made itself known, a spirit calling herself Patience Worth. She claimed to be a 17th century Englishwoman from Dorsetshire, born around 1649 and killed in 1694, possibly during a migration to the American colonies. From that moment on, Pearl's life was no longer her own. Not long after, Pearl transitioned from Ouija communication to what she described as automatic writing. Sitting at her table, she claimed her hand would move on its own, transcribing words, poems, conversations, and entire books dictated by Patience. What began as disjointed phrases soon became lengthy manuscripts written in archaic English, language filled with metaphors, antiquated words, and a cadence that echoed centuries past. One of the first questions that surfaced was, how could a woman with no serious education and no literary background write with such sophistication, historical nuance, and poetic beauty? In 1917, Pearl published The Sorry Tale, a sprawling 260,000-word novel set in the time of Jesus Christ. The book was dense, filled with biblical references, intricate character development, and a deep moral and spiritual tone. Critics were stunned. Some praised it as a work of genius. Others doubted its authenticity, arguing it was too complex to have come from someone like Pearl without external guidance, or perhaps from the spirit she claimed to channel. More works followed. Poems, parables, dialogues, and novels. Titles like Hope Trueblood, The Pot Upon the Wheel, and Telka were released. Patience's literary voice seemed unshakable, distinct from Pearl's own personality, style, and education. Witnesses who watched Pearl write described her entering a kind of trance or hyper-focused state, her pen moving fluidly across the page, barely pausing. Scholars and linguists began to investigate. The language in the writings was undeniably archaic, resembling early modern English, the style found in Shakespearean plays and the King James Bible. Some pointed out that the vocabulary was inconsistent with the 17th century, blending terms from various periods. Still, the consistency of voice and the literary quality couldn't be dismissed easily. Pearl's story began to spread, capturing the attention of both spiritualist communities and skeptical scientists. Spiritualists hailed her as a gifted medium, a conduit to the spirit world. Skeptics, however, proposed alternative explanations. They argued that Pearl might have absorbed old language from books, hymns, and Bible passages, and her subconscious mind reconstructed them into new works. Psychologists were fascinated. Carl Jung himself believed in the concept of the collective unconscious, a shared memory across humanity. Could Pearl have tapped into something greater than herself? Could the voice of Patience Worth have been an expression of a deeper, hidden self, a psychological phenomenon misunderstood as supernatural? But for Pearl and her supporters, the experience was not psychological, it was spiritual. She did not claim authorship. She always gave credit to Patience Worth. "I am not writing," Pearl often said. "It is Patience who speaks through me." Interestingly, despite Patience's claim of having lived in the 1600s, there were no historical records confirming her existence. No baptismal records, no property deeds, no ship manifests, nothing to anchor her story in real history. Skeptics pounced on this as proof that Patience was a fabrication. Yet believers argued, spirits are not bound by our archives. Their truths may not be written in our books. Pearl never sought great fame or wealth. She didn't tour or publish sensational memoirs. She lived a modest life, often embarrassed by the attention. Her husband, John Curran, supported her throughout, though he too struggled to explain what was happening. By the 1920s, Pearl Curran had become both a literary curiosity and a spiritual icon. Her home became a place of pilgrimage for those intrigued by the unknown. Some came in awe, others in doubt. But none could deny that something unusual was happening. Critics remained divided. Was this an elaborate hoax? A subconscious manifestation? A rare form of literary genius? Or was it truly the voice of someone who once lived and died long ago? Pearl continued to write through patience until her health began to decline. In 1937, she passed away from pneumonia. With her death, patience fell silent. No one else has claimed to hear her voice since. What remains is a vast collection of text, millions of words, written in a voice that doesn't quite belong to the 20th century, nor entirely to the 17th. It lingers somewhere in between. Even today, scholars revisit the writings of Patience Worth. Some treat them as literary anomalies, others as spiritual documents. But all agree on one thing: the case of Pearl Curran is unlike any other in literary or psychic history. Was Patience Worth real? Was she a ghost, a fiction, a fragment of Pearl's hidden mind, or something else entirely? Perhaps the greater truth is not in who Patience was, but in what her story tells us about the human mind, imagination, and the boundaries we may yet learn to cross. Whatever the answer, the voice of Patience Worth continues to echo through time, mysterious, haunting, and impossible to ignore. So what do you believe? Was Patience Worth truly the voice of a forgotten spirit, or the hidden genius of an overlooked woman? A masterful hoax? A psychological phenomenon? Or a genuine message from beyond the veil? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this dive into the mysterious, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who loves a good mystery. Because sometimes the greatest tales aren't written by the living, but whispered from the other side.